something that would have been here 10 years ago. Sorry, can you hear me? No,
It's me, man, really.
No, well, does that work better?
Yeah.
Can you hear that now? I'll try and stay right here then. I'm not gonna bend over to all top of my head. Yeah, it's just that I've lived down at Johnston Point, not Johnson's Mills, Johnston Point on Harwood Street. Full-time now for 20 years, and before that it was my summer cottage for my family. And as I explained to Jeff, the original building was an old shed we converted into a cottage camp. And indoor plumbing, that kind of stuff. And it's now become the most house. That's what lives there. And Namibia, just to give you a few factoids to explain where it is, in southern Africa, used to be called German Southwest Africa. That's when Germany had a colony there. And that colonial history still looms large all over the country of Namibia. Namibia as a country is about the same size as Ontario. So it's a good sized country. It's, at last count, it was the least densely populated country in Africa. And the only official language is English, although there are 13 or 14 tribal languages spoken. So almost everybody speaks at least two languages, their own langue maternelle, as we say in French, and English. And the English is very good quality, much better than what you hear here. It's really quite pleasant to have a conversation with somebody in Namibia. And they have little different twists to their language that makes it kind of fun to talk to them. So, Linda, Marshall, and myself agreed, and she graciously agreed to spend all that money to join me on my trip to Africa. And it's not an inconsiderable amount of money. Think this is sort of a budget-priced tour. We flew first to Frankfurt, and you'll see that in a second, and then we flew to Windhoek, and that's basically 30 hours of movement trying to get there. And so the economy airfares is what we settled on, and then we settled on economy accommodations as much as we could, except the last 3 nights, which was extravagant. So economy accommodations you can think of as being $200 to $400 a night. And the last one for 3 nights was $1,500 each per night. So that's extravagant for us, but that's not an expensive place to stay on a safari in Africa. There are lots of camps that are $2,000 or $3,000 per person per night, but they really get your money's worth if you're looking to see animals. Do you still hear me now? This working? Okay, good. So let's begin with our trip there. Oh yes, tonight will be more meaningful for me and for you if you participate. And I'm going to be asking you questions as we go along about what you understand from what you see. Okay, there's some little video clips here that struck me as being interesting, and I kept trying to explain to myself what I saw, but every time I get a new factoid, I realized that what I just thought was wrong, and I think it all again. And it's kind of fun to put yourself in the place of people who live there and put yourself in the place of the animal. What are they thinking? What are they doing? Why are they doing that? So I'll be asking those questions as we go along. It's not, so your participation will be very vital for this presentation. Okay, so initially we started in Moncton, flew to Montreal. As I said, we went over to Frankfurt, checked into a hotel first thing in the morning in Frankfurt. In the afternoon we flew to Windhoek. That's a long way. And then we drove the next day to Etosha National Park. And this is a cultural sidestep, we're almost to the animals, but this is sort of beginning of the animals. When Linda and I were in Okahanja to buy some supplies for the back of our car, because it was self-drive safari, we drove our own, which is another interesting story. Anyways, in the parking lots in the shopping malls in Namibia, there are these self-appointed parking lot attendants. They don't actually do anything except wave their hands in the air saying, you know, like this, get you back into somebody else. It's quite interesting, and there are no shopping malls that are unattended. Every shopping mall has these attendants. And they're expecting 50 cents, you know, $1 in Canadian terms, reward for their efforts on their behalf. In the first one we went to, this was surprised me. The fellow waving his hands in the air showed me this, or something very similar to this. And you can see a better picture of it here on the screen. And I'll move along a little further what it is. This is all hand carved right in front of me as he was getting a spiel about how important it was that I buy something from him. I wound up spending, I think, for 2 of these little baubles, $30 Canadian. My view of that was that, okay, I'm in Africa. You're always seeing you're always seeing programs to appeal for help, this African country, that African country. What better way than to give an actual African some money over and above his expected amount and let him make the decisions, or her make the decisions about what to do with that money. Why should I decide? So
What's it made of?
Oh, that's correct. This is a palm nut. You heard of palm oil? This is the source of palm oil, palm nut. Grows on trees. He planted out 3 trees by the shopping mall where he got these nuts. So it's a very low, the only thing he really brought to the table was a very sharp, small knife that he carved these images, as you can see there. And they contain the big 5. So there's the rhino, that's one of the big 5. Followed by, who's this guy? This is a lion. Okay. This is aimed at tourists, because all tourists who go to Africa say, "Do you see the big 5?" Yeah. The giraffe is just as interesting.
You've got your name on there.
Yeah, he carved that while I was standing there with his sharp little knife. There's the Cape buffalo, that's one of the big 5. The leopard. And of course, the biggest of the big 5 is this elephant.
Wow.
So we're in Etosha National Park. Give you an idea of, this is how big New Brunswick is. 75,000 square miles. Etosha National Park is about that size, 22,000 square miles. It used to be over 100,000 square miles. And these fellows greeted us at our first hotel in Okahanja. These are gray hornbills. And that's the term that I was given by the people who live there. But if you look in the bird books, they have a number of names that are not named after some scientists who saw the months and published a paper. People who live there call them gray hornbills because their bills are gray. And there was an interaction with my car. You see here? That's a gray hornbill. And this is the first test for your willingness to participate. What exactly was the gray hornbill doing with my car? It had no keys, no road map, so from you, what were you thinking is going on there?
He wanted to see what was in the rearview mirror.
He was. He was very important. I'm sure you've all had the experience of a bird pecking at the window at home, and that happens. It's quite clear what was going on here, and that was quite a bit of fun. I've got the volume turned up. If I figured out how to turn it off, there. You don't need to hear the sound of this. There you go. There they are. Check out my tires. It's Namibia. It is. There's the go-away birds that was on the poster that I sent to you. And there are some red-helmeted guinea fowl. And that's interesting because last month it was a fundraiser for the Quidalga District Schools, grade 7, 8 class going to Quebec City. To raise money, they had a bingo night at the school, which was fun. They raised several $1,000s from this bingo effort. And at the intermission, I was standing talking to 2 local men, and they started talking about guinea fowl. And they lived, one was a fisherman from T-Cap, lived there all his life, and he said his father had guinea fowl in his yard back in the 50s. They were great. One of the things they're really great at is potato bugs. If you have potato bugs in your potato plants, these guys will clean right up, because they're just really every insect you can find. And the guy who was on this side, Tim, he said, well, people down in Pickett County, they have a lot of these because they eat ticks. If you want to clear the ticks off your property, get a few of these, and you won't have any ticks. So you don't have to spray or anything. So that was my little aside, our local thing. And these birds are always searching in the brush, looking for.
So would those be domestic or were those just wild where you saw them?
They're wild, but they're territorial, like a house cat. If you've ever had to move with a cat, you know that the cat wants to go back to where you were. Well, these guys, when they get established in a territory, they don't go anywhere else. They stay right there. And you see them out in the bush everywhere. And the first thing in the morning, you'll see the little dots running across the landscape with the guinea fowl headed for the water. So there'll be like, you'll see a dot here, a dot there, a dot. Pretty soon there's 100 of them coalescing on the pond where you're standing. So this is a little closer, more close up of the park. And on this side, your right, is where we first stayed. And that big black or gray part in the middle is a Tosha pan, salt pan, which is what the park is built around. And it, once a year maybe, and probably certainly once every 10 years, it fills with water. The rest of the time it's just flat bit of salt, goes on forever. But the animals all live around there, around the park, and all of those little houses you see on that picture are where there are ponds, watering holes for the animals. And this is where you focus your attention on the animals. So the first place we stayed was on Gourley. It looked like this. It was right there.
Exactly, yeah.
And this was one of the residents of Gourley. I love this picture, this little clip, because of what he does next is fun to watch. Watch this now. Big sniff, and then yeah, well, so what? We weren't that interested. And then right behind him there was this giraffe family, and the baby's on your left, and the mother's on the right. And she's watching for signs of danger. She's also teaching the young giraffe to also look for signs of danger. So that she's doing two things. She's actually watching for danger, but teaching the little one to survive. And not too many animals will attack a giraffe directly. They might attack the calf, because the giraffe has this great kick. You're very likely to be injured. This is a group of eland, and there's a yellow hornbill, or yellow-billed hornbill.
So you want a group right now? Are you with a group or on your own?
We are part of the camp. This particular little drive was organized, a game drive in the camp.
Yeah.
This is the morning. The afternoon we got in our car, that gray car you saw,
Yeah.
and drove around. This is another story. Driving around on very bumpy roads. And the reason to tell the story is I had this dash cam. I was going to wow people with dash cam pictures of elephants across the front of my car. But the roads are so rough it broke the dash cam. And this is a dik-dik. Dik-diks are interesting because they live on about 4 acres of land their whole lives. And they have these little paths. They've worked out, sort of like a mouse trail in my cottage, you know, the nice, leave little droppings, they can smell where they're going. You see these big eyes, they move a lot at night. And they would be on this 4 acres, and the predators would come looking for them, but the dictate would know the predators there because they're big ears and big eyes. And they would run these little trails they got built through the brush to avoid being captured. That's the life of a dictate. And surprisingly, they don't need a whole lot of water. They get water from the cellulose they eat. As do many of the antelope in Africa. And this is a blacksmith lapwing. Those of you who are real bird knowledge people, you know what a lapwing is. I have no idea. It's this bird here, blacksmith lapwing.
Yeah, what kind of lapwing is it that we might see? I've heard of this, a lapwing.
European,
Oh, okay.
Vanellus.
Okay.
I happen to do a PhD on lapwings, Mark, so I.
Oh my goodness.
Well, there, I've already admitted you know a lot more than I do.
I don't know much about the blacksmith, but the European one I can.
Well, these are very courageous little birds, and you'll see that in about 5 minutes further on in the video. But this is just a shot. This is a slender mongoose. I wanted to see a mongoose. This is a pale chanting goshawk, and it's noted for its red legs. You can see it's got the red legs there. I can't, because I'm colorblind, so it's just, I know there are legs there, but what color they are, I don't know. And it perches on, this is about 30 feet in the air, perches on a branch like that, and waits for some critter to try and sneak across the road and pounces on it. This is how they hunt. They don't soar like our birds will, or predators, who's soaring and hovering and stuff like that. He just sits on a branch and waits for his lunch, and when it comes, he jumps on it.
And he's just sitting on one leg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is this is our first actual water hole we got to. You can see the animals are all down there, milling about. And in just a second, right here, something's about to happen. I want you to watch it closely. The middle animal there is a kudu, the one closest to the grass, standing with the curly horns up there. Maybe you'll see him. And watch what happens to this kudu. This is so the zebra shoot him away. What are you going to do about that? So, question for you. What was going through the zebra's mind when he chased away the kudu? And why would the kudu run away? He's bigger. He got big horns. I just thought fascinating. This zebra wanted to take control of the water hole and not share it with anybody. There's all kinds of animals in the water hole. This kudu is somehow offended. So any answers there?
The other guy has big friends.
Lots of them.
There's a crowd of friends. This is another giraffe picture. We're watching him walk ungainly gait across the. These are also ungainly gaited animals. And there's a broad picture of the water hole, the giraffe in the background. And here's a little spotted hyena coming to the water hole. So they're very cautious, especially when they're on their own. By themselves, they're very often victim of lions. In a pack, they'll kill a lion, but if they're by themselves, a single lion would take one out easily. And this is the camp at night. And
Wait, you have to go back.
oh,
One.
back one. Okay, I can try that. No, back too far.
No.
There's the lapwing, and the wing.
Never.
There's the hyena. Before the hyena?
No, it's after.
Hey,
Who is this enchanting creature?
More of the wildlife.
Well,
I think you're pretty wild, Linda.
I was enchanted too. Yeah,
Is there a fence around your compound?
This compound, no. That grass you see over Lindy's shoulder there, animals can walk on that, they can walk up into the compound if they wanted to. The main protection there was the water itself was preventing the large animals from charging into the camp. On the back, you see those umbrellas over there on the left, on the right. Behind them, there is a electric fence. An electric fence in Namibia, that's a good way to introduce that, is generally 6 to 8 feet high. And when you see a fencer around here, they're operating on 12 volts. Over there, it's more like 120 volts. So the reason they're so strong is because the animals spend all their time figuring out a way to get around the fence. So they just give them a real shock, and then they don't come back. Except the elephants. If they want to go through a fence, they turn their butt up to the fence and push, and away goes the fence. So, and we'll see lots of elephants in this video. Yeah, so that was Linda. This is our dining room, and this pond here, we'll see it in a second, is right behind this campfire with the 2 wine glasses. And there are 2 dinner guests arriving. This is these are white rhino. I turned the volume way up, and you wanted to listen closely, you could hear the munching on the grass. The white rhino is actually a wide-mouthed rhino. The white is something someone misheard. I wrote it in a book, so it became white rhino. And the mouth is about this far across, and it's just a little bit more. This is a creature. Who knows what this is? You can see it, right? It's right there in the middle. You see the ears? Leopard? That's a leopard, yep. And that's the only leopard we saw. And it was at night, so we're trying to get a picture of the leopard in the dark. So we got this picture. You see a shadow there.
Yeah.
And another picture of the leopard. You almost see his eyes. And this is my classic wildlife shot of the leopard leaving camp. Shot off his head.
Yeah.
Most of the leopards.
Yeah. My bird shots are usually a bare branch.
Yes.
Yeah, the leopard is a nocturnal animal. That's when it hunts. And like the bobcat is a diurnal. That's during the day because its main prey is red squirrel, who are also daytime animals. Yeah, lost his head, and this is a duiker. It's like a dik-dik, only about twice the size. These are marabou stork. That's a gray heron. And this is an elephant. It looks like I got this in slow motion, but no. It's just the way they walk. Now, this is probably a good point to introduce this little factoid for you. The Namibian elephants are the 2nd tallest variety of elephants in Africa. And they're absolutely huge, 18 feet. And this male probably weighs about 5 tons, or 10,000 pounds. And the females weigh half that, 5,000 pounds or 2.5 tons. Quite a disparity, and the males live alone or with 2 or 3 other males. That'll be their whole social life once they're mature. And this is the giraffe eating. And if you look carefully at the branches, you can see big thorns. It doesn't seem to bother him at all. Yeah. This is a group of impalas hiding under a tree. Now, this is who can tell me what that is? Yes, of what? There's a hole right here that contained a giant tusk. And so it's an elephant skull, as somebody said. And it's just laying there in the dirt.
Did you bring it home?
Well, this is what happened next. That's a good question. I like that question. If you look at this 12,000-pound animal, what's he doing? No, he's caressing it. I was blown away by this. Wow. That's his, like this skull has been there for a long time, and this guy walks up and caresses it, this 12,000-pound animal. So, question for you. Why would he do that?
Probably a relative that died.
That was my suspicion. It'd be hard not to be a relative in that park, because there's 500 elephants in the property already. I'm thinking even I thought even a closer relative, like Sydney, had been attacked. The fact that the tusk was missing made me think it was poacher. That's what I was thinking. But all that could be wrong, because I don't know, I'm not an elephant, I wasn't doing his thinking, and just really a way to see this tender moment of an elephant connecting with the dead. Now, in the background here, you can see right there. That's the only shot I have of an oryx. It's a.
Are we looking at the back of it or the front?
That's the back of it. It's, if you look on the right-hand side of that animal, its neck is started this way, and great long horns coming down there. And they're an animal that you can see them around water holes, but not very often. They don't actually need to drink hardly at all, because they manufacture water from cellulose, like they pick.
Are they domesticated at all? Are they domesticated?
Yes, you can buy ranched meat of the oryx, of the kudu, of the impala, and I think that's about it, of ranched meat you can get in Namibia. And quite often served to tourists in the parks.
Yeah, I've got a son who lives in the States, and a friend of his was going away for a while, and he gave him some oryx meat and some other exotic meat from Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably ranched meat. And these ranches in Namibia, how big are they? A small ranch would be 10,000 acres. A big ranch would be 100,000 acres. You think of what 200 acre farm, it's a farm. And not there, because the grass is so far apart, each blade of grass is that far apart, you need a lot of ground to grow enough grass to feed anything. So and the first farmer I met there said, he said, it's been dry the last 2 years, nothing's grown. So it's a good thing I had that extra pasture that I didn't know the animals into last year, because this year that's where they have to live off of 2-year-old grass. So it's a different kind of farming. It's quite a, I don't know, for me it's just a fabulous, thrilling thing to do to see these animals. And here's a herd of females, foreground and background. You see some in the background. There's about 30 of these animals walking across the road in front of our car, right there. And there's a big traffic jam waiting to get by. These are wildebeest or gnu, depending on where you're from. This is all the pictures you can see of these guys, except one little trail shot of them coming to a water hole. I've never been able to get a good picture of a wildebeest. And this trip I figured out why. Because when you're taking an animal picture, you have to get their eyes in focus. So that some people looking at an animal picture, they focus on the eyes. And these guys must be 2-inch long eyelashes that cover their eyes all the time. You'll never see an eye shot of a gnu or a wildebeest. These guys are just practicing. They're young wildebeest practicing in fighting. We'll see a fight a little later on among some other animals. This is kind of an interesting little side, like artificial. This is all artificial. This is the pond by the deck where the rhinoceros were feeding. And the staff who work at the restaurant brought these fish into the pond in the spring, before the dry season started, dropped them in there, and every time they clear off a tourist plate, they grab a little bit and feed the fish. And in late fall, when they go home, they harvest the fish and take home with them. That's what they're looking at, is these fish. There's a zebra. If you notice, the zebra he had black and brown stripes. Right off you think of it. There are black and white striped zebra in this area, but just not in this particular part of the park that we were in. So there's the mountain zebra and the plain zebra, if you want to simplify it. The zebra, simplify it. And this is a suntan lotion being applied. Another slender mongoose. I think that thing behind there is a car part. And here is a lion and his buddy at the water hole.
Yeah, but that's a lioness, isn't it?
Oh, that's a good question. That would be a lioness.
Mm.
But the one at the water hole, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
When
there
they're-
are animals there at the water, at that water hole.
There weren't any animals, but the lions at the water hole. There's a reason for that, because the lions were there. But the lions are there because they're scaring the animals off into the bush, so that their other family members can be in the bush hiding, waiting for the animals to approach and grab one. That's a very common technique with water holes for lions. It happens all over the park. And there's an elephant getting a different color bath. You get black, white, and red elephants in this park. More suntan lotion. He just hooked his trunk over his tusk here, for no particular purpose. But that's 6 tons of elephant approaching. This is the only good shot we got of a ostrich.
Yeah.
And this picture here in the foreground, that rock, the termite mound. And there are fields on farms in Namibia where there are termite mounds twice this size every 10 feet for the whole farm. It'd be a 4,000 acre farm, termite mounds everywhere. Takes you 5 minutes to drive by them. This is who knows what that is? I was surprised. It doesn't look like ours. This is a kestrel. And this is a
Secretary bird?
Cory bustard.
Busted.
Secretary bird looks a lot like that.
Yeah.
Only they're ugly.
Yeah.
If you can imagine some bird being called ugly, it's just like it's got large knobby joints in its legs and a big beak and these feathers that sort of hang out the back. Plumes. That's what they call a secretary bird. And a dust bath. And back to the water hole to have a sundowner, which is every night. And I think this is prophetic of our first evening in Africa. There's the crescent moon with Venus in the sky. That was kind of fun to look at. And so we went on this road, and that's how bumpy it was. Not a bit of exaggeration. To this next place. This is Okakoyu, which is where the most prolific water hole in the park is. And there's the entrance to our dwelling. Not quite as homey as the first place, it's more industrial. This is a government road. If you're doing really budget price camping or safari, you can go on, rent one of these vehicles and sleep on the roof. Now, being an older person, I had no idea what they were doing at night. Because I know I would fall right down my head from that. There's our water hole. This is from our balcony overlooking the water hole. There were just a few elephants that day. And they keep coming in, This is a little story, and I want you to figure out what's going on here. This is another test.
Great.
Watch closely.
Mom, dad, and the kid, but
That's mom and baby. Yeah. Watch what the baby does. You think it's being, shadowing on with mom very carefully, be protected, that kind of stuff. Just a regular kid, right? Just playing with his trunk, and then, oh, hi mom. See you later, mom. And there's the blacksmith lapwing in the foreground. He's doing something important. You'll see later what that thing is. Where's mom? It's obviously a scent, looking for the right scent. No. You guys aren't mom, why are you here? And then more checking. Oh. And there are some oryx in the background. Peter found mom. So, what was going on there?
Was he looking for his mother to have a drink of milk?
Maybe, but the elephant, as I've come to understand them, are very social animals. As somebody said, they're all related. All these elephants in the park are related to each other. This particular grouping, headed by a matriarch, all of the children are her direct descendants or her grandchildren or nephews and nieces. That's the whole family is there.
So an elephant that size wouldn't wouldn't be unweaned?
That's still nursing. Yes, it is nursing. An elephant that size would be nursing. Yeah. And indeed, if you see them in the bush trying to eat some leaves, it's really comical because they haven't learned how to use their trunk yet. So they're flipping around like this and just randomly reaching out to try and grab a bite. And they're not ready for independence yet because the elephant's diet is mostly wood. They eat branches and some fairly big branches, like they eat a whole branch. The leaves aren't there. That's giraffes eat the leaves, but the elephants eat mostly wood.
It's hard life to be a tree out there then, isn't it?
Well, that's another good story about Etosha National Park. It was bigger, 22,000 square miles. Originally, it was over 100,000 square miles, so square kilometers, sorry. And they, okay, it's funny. They're fun to watch. They're very social. And these are all females and children. There's no males in this group. This is a 5,000 pound animal. Yeah.
Well, I'll have a guess.
Yes.
As a mom myself, being in a mall with my young daughter, and you're not paying attention, you don't know where I am, and you need to know where I am, and now you're screwing around over here, and I still know where you are, but you need to know where I am.
That's pretty much what's going on. Very, very social animals. But they're just so fun to watch. This is a black rhino, which is different from the other rhinos. If you look at the front of it, its mouth is fairly narrow. That's because this species of rhino, this species of rhino is a browser. The white rhino is a grazer, eats grass, and this is a browser, eats twigs. And its mouth is a different shape because it has to grab the twig with its lips to draw it into its mouth so they can bite it off. And they bite off little short sections of branch as their food source. So when you're looking at the dung from a black rhino, and check it out, see if it's black or white rhino by the length of the sticks. And the sticks all have a 45-degree cut in the end, and that's what their teeth do. That's one of the things we learned from our tractor friends, who we'll meet later. This is a southern black, or this northern black Korean, male and female. And this is about 1.5 kilometers apart when we saw them. But it's probably a pair, because this is getting close to breeding season, and these are the only 2 Koreans we saw. So they had to be somehow engaged. These are bulbuls. There's a variety of them, and I don't know which ones these are. The Google search said the red vented blue bull, but I don't know what it is. Do you know, Richard?
Oh, no.
And the cigarette butt. Because this is where they hang out with the tourists. And this is a male elephant looking at this family. So that the matriarch is the big elephant in the background. And this guy obviously knows these people, these elephants, and he's trying to communicate. And here he is communicating with the matriarch. And what does she have to say? He says hi. She gives him a sniff and says, "Yeah, I recognize you, you idiot. What are you doing here? Leave us alone." Yeah. You're not coming home. You're on your own. Yeah.
It's a no.
At that point, she turned and led her little family away from the water hole. She didn't want this guy coming back to the family at all. But he was probably like a 2-year-old. Now this is the, can you see the blacksmith lapwing, Richard?
On the far shore?
No.
Oh, yeah, right in the middle.
Right in the middle, yeah. Now, remember I told you earlier that there was a blacksmith lapwing amongst those old elephants doing something? This is the place where the elephants all walk. That male blacksmith lapwing was scaring it, or directing the elephants away from the nest. So the elephants are around, he's around doing like a sentry duty. And a little closer, a little closer. And for the whole time we were there, 6 days we were there, she sat right there, didn't move. And it was his job every time elephants approached, or any large animals approached, to defend that. But just think of it, a 1-pound bird, 12,000-pound elephant. But the elephant moved away. They all avoided crushing this woman, this little hen on her eggs. So she was there the whole time, didn't move. A little clearer shot. There are some giraffes reflected in the water. And at night. And there are some nighttime visitors. 3 lions in the same place the giraffes were just standing. And there's a couple of rhinos. These are black rhinos again. And that's the biggest tree in the park right there. Because back to the story of the size of the park for just a second. The park was over 100,000 square kilometers. They shrunk it down to 22 due to population pressure. Fewer children were dying, more people needed space to have a farm. And on that point, just another aside, just a double aside here, is that in Namibia, they have labor statistics like we do here, and they have track the unemployment rate, but you're considered fully employed if you have 3 cows. So you need 60 or 100 acres to have 3 cows, so you're fully employed. This is, that's why the reason that tree is the last big tree in the park is that when they gave this land, parkland, back to the people who lived there so they could have space to farm, they cut off access to the highlands of Angola. So these elephants now are isolated in the park. They can't relate to the elephants in the highlands of Angola, which isn't a bad thing, because the highland elephants in Angola were largely killed off by the war between the various proxies, the South Africans and the Cubans, but it was in the 1980s and 70s. It was 27 years of killing, and they get up in their helicopters and go to the bush and shoot anything that moved, especially elephants, because it was a good target. But that's sort of an aside. These are isolated elephants in this park. This is in the parking lot. The ground squirrel does a little eating for us. Drops his nut. Oh yeah, here it is. And they're quite sociable. Want you to give them some food. And this is a thank you, Linda, for standing in to give us some perspective how big this nest is. It's a bird's nest in a tree. This is sociable weaver is the animal that lives there. And there they are flying out. It was just incredible.
Like a
There's
colonial
another-
nest, then, is it?
Pardon?
It's like a colony nest.
Oh yes, yeah, social
Gang
weaver,
of them.
that's right, yeah. And there are several different kinds of weaver. They all have their own, not that we brought the weaver up. There's a weaver called the white-browed social weaver. And when the guide said it with a slight accent, I had no idea what he was saying, because there are no hard consonants in it. White-browed, just like that. That's what I heard. Anyways, it has a white brow, but they have the interesting thing is they build these colonies of nests in a tree, only 2 or 3 of which are occupied. The rest are all dummies to attract snakes, so the snakes can't find the actual nest. They're all playing mind games with you, these guys. There's a white elephant. It's not a gift, it's just a white elephant. And look what he's eating, just thorns. Here's the last shot of the wildebeest or gnu's. Or is it gnu? Gnu or new?
Gnu. The song calls them gnu.
Gnu.
So you must have had some warnings about precautions about, especially when you're driving on your, what to do with each kind of animal or whatever.
Yeah, the biggest precaution was don't drive off the edge of the road. Because the edge of the roads are all elevated about a foot, and they have very steep shoulder. So if you get out there, you're going to roll. And if you're going, say, 80 kilometers an hour, you're going to roll. Because you go, and you just keep going. So we were driving a Toyota Fortuner, which is a lot like a 4Runner, but it's the tropical version of the 4Runner. So like you don't have a block heater. You don't need defrost. So they run like that. This lion wasn't snarling. What was it doing?
Sniffing?
Sniffing. The organ that it uses to sniff is in its mouth, upper palate. It has a name, like the Johnson's organ or something like that. I can't remember what it is. So he closed his mouth and her mouth and had a good look around. Now we were talking a few minutes ago about, is that a lioness or a lion? Now, which one is this?
It's hard to see, yeah.
This is a lion, and the one with the snarl, that was a lioness. You can see his beginnings of his mane.
Yeah.
And you won't see very many mature lions in this park. This is a lion. There's somebody else taking pictures. You won't see very many mature lions in a park setting like this, because when the weaning male shows up to take over the pride, kills off all the babies. And so no babies are allowed to stay behind. And he's the dominant person or dominant animal in the group. And he weighs about 200 pounds more than the female. weighs about 400 pounds, so a 600-pound calf. So, has anybody ever heard of a lion roar in the jungle? Yeah? Okay. We woke up one morning late for breakfast at 7 o'clock, and the whole talk in the dining room was, did you hear that lion roaring past our windows in the night? And of course, we had the air conditioning on, they were tired, slept right through it. There in the middle of breakfast, about a kilometer away, this lion let out a big roar, shook the table. It's really, and you'll see the effect of that in a few minutes. Here's the bumpy road, an old giraffe. You see the washboard there. And there's the sunset, getting ready for sundowner. And this is where we moved parks. We went down to someplace called Angava. Now, all of these places begin with O. I get the feeling that in the language that they spoke there, the tribal language they spoke, O meant place. So Anguma, Okahanja, and this is Angava. I know this one. On means place, and Gava means rhinoceros. Because they have the focus of their private game reserve is rhinoceros. Which was right there. Not far away. This is a yellow-billed hornbill again. And this is the inside of our accommodations. You can see how rudimentary they are.
Terrible.
This is what we suffered. That's a bit of art decoration on the wall. And there's an elephant walking by just off our deck there, going by the hide. And there's an elephant. That little fence that Linda's looking at, that wattle fence, surrounds their outdoor shower. And can you imagine being in the outdoor shower with the elephant right there, chewing that tree? Just a, there he goes.
It's a well-watered tree by the
Yeah.
shower, I suppose.
And there's the one male, this is the guy that roared.
Typical guy.
Is there still trophy hunting in Namibia? Isn't that where the American dentist shot this lion?
You're thinking Zimbabwe.
I'm thinking Zimbabwe.
Yeah. But that's it.
But
It's
is there still trophy hunting here?
not in these parks.
Right.
There is trophy hunting in Botswana in the Kalahari Desert. So you can pay the big bucks and run around and shoot some cow.
Stick it on your
Essentially,
bedroom.
essentially what it is. Stick it on your bedroom wall, press your wife.
Depends on the wife.
Oh, who's gonna dust it? You can think of that.
How long were you there? How long was your old trip?
Honestly, not long enough. We were there 3 weeks, 21 days, from leaving Moncton to getting back to Moncton. So on the ground there, we were probably 17 days, looking at stuff.
What was the temperature?
Nighttime, it went down to probably below 10 degrees. Daytime high, every day we were there was 36.
And the time of year?
This is September. And the reason I picked September is the tourists have gone. That's another little factoid to share with you about the tourists. Linda likes to tell me that they're so well behaved. I said, yeah. She went through the guest book at the park where we were staying. About 36 pages of guests, where they live and stuff. There were no Americans listed on the guest book. None. So the Americans don't even know where Namibia is. And that's makes a nice change in atmosphere. Nobody's trying to be, kind of thing. So there's our blacksmith lapwing. There's another elephant eating. This is right outside our shower. This is Right, I took this picture. And this is a insect shot. We didn't see many insects because it's so dry. This is a carpenter bee. I'm never sure what these animals are. Oh, this is Linda. And there are some more black rhinoceros. See his pointy beak? That's a good shot of that pointy beak. Or prehensile beak, I guess maybe. And what's he doing? Salt lick. Salt licks are very common in these parks because the animals don't always have easy access to salt. And this animal here just settled right in. And that's a sunrise as opposed to sunset.
Warthog.
A warthog. Those bony protrusions on its cheek are defensive. I'm not sure what they defend you from, but they're hide-covered bones that stick out. They're not a wart. These are all, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different kinds of birds there, and I'm not sure what they are. I tried Google Lens and I got different answers. This is a good shot. Remember earlier I mentioned the white-browed sociable weaver? This is the one on the bottom. The top one is something I hadn't seen before. This is a purple roller.
Say that again.
Purple roller. And just to give you an idea of how that means is that lovely beak it has flies through there and grabs an insect that's flying around, puts its wings out like this, and does a roll, a barrel roll in the air to impress a female about how agile they are. So there's the lilac-breasted roller, there's the purple roller, there's the European roller, there's different kinds of rollers. These ones, these purple rollers, are only found in Southern Africa. The other rollers, you might find them in Europe. More zebra. And this is where we get to that lion roaring thing. See how calm they look? They're just so relaxed. Yeah, they're all just drinking away. There's some of those thrushes or whatever they were, birds flying around. Oh, this is a good shot. I like this shot because both of these impala or gazelles have broken horns. This is the only place of the thousands of these animals I've seen that the broken horns are common. These are two I got a picture of, but so question for you: what happens to one of these animals when it breaks a horn? Is that good, bad, or indifferent? Is it a sign to the female that I'll stop at nothing to get you, or is it a sign to the other males, don't tangle with me because I'm already a good fighter? Or what is that? What is the broken? Or is it saying, oh, I got a broken horn, I'm weak? What's going on there?
Had a good time on Saturday night.
Yeah. You should see the other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. See the lion's effect, these animals? Because the lion had just walked through here that morning. They're looking. These guys are a little nervous. Yeah. This is a typical
Can
road.
you talk about water hole etiquette? It seems like the animals, there's some sort of agreement that they can all come to the water hole, many different species.
Yes.
Maybe not the super dominant ones. But is there, how does all that work? Like,
Okay, from
do
what I
animals not poop in the water hole because it's a water hole, or?
Oh no, it's just the opposite actually.
Yeah.
I don't want to digress too far. Let me see if I can bring myself back here just a second. Okay. Your body and everybody's body in this room contains millions and billions of bacteria. It's just, and they're all there for a good purpose. It keeps you safe and alive. So don't scrub them off too desperately. These animals in their gut need all kinds of bacteria to digest all that wood they eat. When they go to the water hole they pooped in, they get a nice dose of bacteria for their gut. And if you look at cows, even in our own pastures, quite often they will not shy away from eating grass next to a dung heap because of that they have to be repopulated with gut, reestablishing gut biome. That's the technical term. I don't know what biome means, but it's the technical term we use. Yeah, so this is our guide driving us down this lovely road. A kudu. Yeah, that's a kudu. See his curly horns? And he's on the radio contacting the other guys to see whether the animals are that we should need to go see. And this is a water hole where we had our sundowner. You can see in Linda's hand there's a gin and tonic. And our guide is shouting at this elephant, not to get him to go away, just let the elephant know that we're there. And there's this little guy coming up, really curious, wants to know, what are these things in this box? Can I touch one? Linda's being really cautious.
Have another
These are lions that have feasted all night, and their tummies are full, and now they're just sort of hanging out in the shade. Speaking of shade, just on the other side, is the impala is like a moose. It looks big, but when you face it on, it's very narrow. Right? The reason it's narrow is because of the need for shade. So when the sun is really, the tropical sun's really hot, they'll stand behind a single tree which has a trunk like this, and no branches anywhere in sight. But that's the shade they need. So they line themselves up between the branch and the sun in their body and hang out in the shade that way. These lions will get up and move around. They're always just a shady spot. And you can see one or two of them have blood on them from the night feed. And there's a wide rhino. See the white rhino? White mouth? And these are white rhinos, and one of the ways you can tell they're white rhinos and not black rhinos is that the black rhinos are not social. But the white rhinos are. And here's a bunch of adult male white rhinos with a wide nose talking to each other before going to the bar. Waiting for happy hour to start. And there's one of them there's a fair bit bigger than the other two. This guy here, they're all picking on him because they want to be the boss. But he's the boss because he's probably 1,000 pounds heavier than they are. I guess the bar opened.
What camera did you use?
Camera? Oh, I have a old Nikon 600mm instant camera that takes great pictures because you can zoom between 60x. It zooms between about focal length of about 30 centimeters to 600. It does a really good job of it. And it has lots of little features that help you focus and give video. And there's a giraffe. See his legs spread in the background there? He's up on a salt lick. There's the guide preparing our sundowner because the sun's going down. Okay, so I mentioned Linda was there? And these are the rhinos that had run away before they got to the bar. Just them drinking their fill, looking at each other. And this is a baby rhino, 3 weeks old. And interesting in this one, the mother, if you look at her horns, one of the horns has been shortened. And there was a period for about 8 years there where the idea was shorten their horns and they'll be attracted to poachers. And then they discovered this problem. There's the baby rhino, there's a mother whose horn wasn't shortened. That's the problem right there. This lion, not a lioness, this one, you can tell because its mane's starting to grow, but it's a junior lion. It's not a big boss. So this is what he does next. That's the rhinoceros's back leg and the lion's head between the back legs of the rhinoceros. He was going after that 3-week-old baby. And didn't make it, as you can see from this picture. The baby's on the right and the lion is on the left. You can all see those animals, right? And you can't see it very well, but this little shadow back here is the rhinoceros with the shortened horn. She went off first with her baby into the bush, and the lions stayed focused on this one that was closer, the one with the longer horn, it's closer to it. It might have been that this is something you can help me with, was the rhinoceros with the undiminished horn acting as a protector of the one with the diminished horn. Is that what she was doing? I don't know the answer to that question, but just because that's the way it turned out. She stayed behind with her baby because she had the big horn, she wasn't too worried. So the other one got away. And that baby would provide a snack for 2 lions, but not meat. There's not enough meat there. That's the lion just sitting there waiting his turn. But what I came away from that little dramatic episode with this idea is that those junior lions who were doing the attacking were being watched by the senior females in the pride. The senior females just sat and watched. They made no attempt to participate in the hunt. Because if they'd all participated in the hunt, that baby rhino would be dead. I was just thinking that the mothers are watching their children learn how to hunt. And this was just a hunting exercise, not a training camp, I feel like. You'd like to, at least that's what I'd like to think. I'm pretty sure that baby rhino lived through the night. Here we are going headed back to camp. Nice smooth road, you can tell. And this is our bushwalk. The guy has a walking stick, you'll see.
Yeah.
Just explaining bushwalk. He was quite funny. He thought I was funny too, because he would give, this is our actual guide, as opposed to the guy with the walking stick. They would give me these little quizzes. Oh, Mark, look down here. What animal's that? And so I look down and say, oh, that's a black rhino. Because I can see the little pieces of wood are chopped up. Or I say, oh, that's a hippopotamus. No hippopotamus here. It's going to be a rhinoceros. But where's he going? And so I was able to guess at the correct answer every time. And they were just beside themselves thinking, who's this idiot that's got all the correct answers to being an expert tracker? But I was listening to all their stories they told us all along. I was paying attention to what they were telling us. So. But you can see how spare and dry it is? Now these trees that you see we're walking by are mopane trees, mopane acacia. And the tree itself, the bark and the leaves, even though they're dried and on the ground, are still very nutritious. And I had the opportunity to break off a piece of bark from one of these trees and eat it. That's quite tasty, really. It's sort of, not quite lemony, but that genre of flavor, a little bit acidic and somewhat sweet. It's an interesting thing. He was explaining to Linda here that the rainy season comes and it takes about 2 months to green up. Oh yes, his walking stick's now a leaning post. But they're quite careful with their firearms in Namibia, for good reason, considering the history of that part of the world. But our guy, the short guy in the back, this guy here, he shows up at the camp where the guy with the gun was. The guy had his gun, but he had no ammunition for it. Our guy had the ammunition. So when they got together for this walk, they loaded the ammunition in his magazine, and he was supposed to be our protector. We didn't actually see any animals because we were quite noisy. And that's the way it be. It was a real surprising animal. And at the end of the trip, this guy took his shells, his ammunition back, and the other guy took his gun back. So they're never left alone with both the gun and the ammunition. And here we are, back with the gray hornbills. This is on our way home, actually. Back to Windhoek, back to Germany, Frankfurt, across to Montreal. This is during the Air Canada strike. We weren't sure we were going to get home, but we did.
Ready for any other questions, are you?
Any questions you'd like to ask? Yes,
That appeared to be a very dry landscape generally.
except
What's the
dry.
source of the water that keeps the water holes full, or partly full anyway?
It's called paleo water. The water is in the aquifer, not very far down, 20 feet or so. And sometimes there's a dip.
And just
There's
sort
water.
of surfaces a little.
Just surfaces a little bit. And we talked a little earlier about the German colonizing and that impact, how huge it is. About 20 years ago, there was this big movement in Germany to build solar panels to power pumps at these water holes. And some of them are going dry in the first part of the summer. So they raised hundreds of millions of dollars in Germany to go over to Namibia to build solar panels to power pumps, water pumps for the water holes. The paleo water, no, it happened in geological time, not in historical time.
Do they have a significant rainy season?
Well, they have a significant season that has rain in it, but that's when things get green. But 10 inches of rain within the limit. It isn't. At night, the humidity will go up, relative humidity will go up to 40%. At noon, it's 5%. That's enough to dry lumber right out.
What's the poaching situation there?
Okay, the first place we stayed at on Gourley Resort with the wine glasses and the hippos eating at the dining room table. Not the hippos, the rhinoceros eating at the dining room table. They have armed guards that circulate at night in their reserve. And they're not nice. So in that particular reserve, there are no night drives available. Because you're out there with armed men who aren't nice. Who, if they mistake you for a poacher, they're gonna shoot. So they'll shoot first, ask questions later. The second camp where we did do the night drive, very controlled. As I said, they had guns and they made appointments and everybody talked to everybody else. It was a big, everybody knew where we were going for the night drive. And so yeah, poaching is a very common problem. That's why the rhinoceros had all their shortened horns and the elephant tusk is missing from that skull. You know, poachers are a real issue. That's part of being on a planet where, when I was born, there were 2.5 billion people. Now they're close to 9. And that has an effect. Right? It has an effect in Namibia, they made park smaller. It has an effect in Canada, because this part of the world is now growing in population because there's just so many people everywhere else. So it's, 9 billion people, it makes a difference. And poaching is part of that. person to go through.
Any bad steaks?
Bad steaks.
Snakes?
Oh, snakes. Oh, no, on this trip we just saw no reptiles of any kind, even lizards. I think that's right. The only time I saw lizards was on my previous Africa trip.
Where was that? Which place was that?
I did Namibia, Botswana. I did this at the Etosha Park before, and then I did the Okavango. So if you have, instead of $10,000, if you have $25,000, go to the Okavango.
And what's next?
Repair the roof of my shed.
Yeah.
I'd love to take Linda to Africa again. I think it's just exciting, but it's a lot of money. Is there anything else? Good, well, thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a small gift from the Chineco Mattress Club. I thank you for not wearing your leopard skin coat tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for the present.
This is now I have a set of two.
Yeah.